Okay, so I just turned on the TV and Venom's playing, right? And we're up to the scene where they're in the forest and he gets saved by this sexy, like, woman Venom, like Michelle Williams in a symbiote. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, hear me out. Because you would, wouldn't you? I mean, it's... even if there's a pretty high chance you're going to get your head bitten off, but, I mean, you died fucking this sexy symbiote. Hey, I'm just saying, you get to that point. I've seen a lot of those hear me outs online, and quite frankly, I'm into some shit. I'm always joking about I want anime mummies to step on me. But I guess joking about I want anime mummies to step on me. But I guess that's just the fact. It's got nothing to do with the fact I don't have mummy issues at all. Like, I actually have a pretty normal relationship with my mum. I might have some daddy issues, but that's like a whole different thing. That I'm not going to get into here, but that's beside the point. The point is, sometimes you watch enough anime and you realize, I'm kind of attracted to the older ones, the more mature women, the women that can sort of throw you around a bit. Case in point, Makima from Chainsaw Man is, and probably will be, my forever obsession. I don't care. Look, I haven't read ahead in the manga. I know what happens, but I don't care. All right? I'm done. I'm officially done with your arguments. No! I'm done. I'm officially done with your arguments. No! But power, though. No. I don't care. Makima, ruin me, please. Alright, so you're probably wondering what the hell's going on. And I'm going to be questioning myself throughout this entire experience as well. Because I don't know if I'm up for this. But this is what we're going for. This is my third attempt at a podcast. I've done this before on my various channels. I think one of them is still on the channel right now, but it's quite old. I think it was might have been from a couple of years ago when my old computer decided to crap itself. And I thought, oh, screw it, I can't do videos anymore. Recorded it and boom, slapped it on the internet. But this time it might be a little bit different because, well, you guys know the story by now. You guys know that you've probably realized by this point, it's hard. It's really hard to do content on this channel. It's every time you try something goes wrong. And in this case, I got blocked. First I tried to do memes and they were actually okay. The first one I did went sort of viral, if you can call it that. And it did really well. And I thought, okay, I'll do more. And I did more and they were okay as well. They weren't nearly as popular as that first one was. But hey, I thought this might be a new thing I can do. And then I found out the anime website that I not only used, because I do have Crunchyroll, I do have all those sorts of things, but I also do have to stream some series online. It got shut down along with a bunch of others, and we all know this story, the great purge of the internet. It happens all the time. So I thought there wasn't going to be a way for me to, and it was probably the only like a safe way I could source clips. I could just download episodes and just cut them and do whatever I want with them. That was cool. And I thought, okay, now I'm going to have to desperately search for a new source. And I thought that might take a while. I have found another website that seems to run quite similar to what Annex did. I'm not going to promote it because I feel that might get us caught out if this somehow gains popularity and people suddenly know and the website gains a lot of traction. But you can search it up online. But truth be told, it's a pretty good website. Although they haven't worked out the kinks just yet, but there's no ads and it's quite good. Plus, I can watch it at work. I can use it at work. I'm not going to mention any names or anything like that. I'm just going to say I watch it at work. And in my downtime when I'm not doing anything and no one's around, and it's fine. It streams well. I've actually been catching up on some series through that. So that happened, and then, all right, I thought, let's go back to the reviews. Let's go back to the review shorts. Let's try it again. And the very first one, it did not take long, but the very first one got actually copyrighted by a party that I found out was a notorious copyright claim. The copyright claim there, and this is one of them. They just copyright claim Content ID for something that they most likely don't own. They don't have any rights to, but they do it anyway because they're assholes. So I figured, okay, this might have to stop for a while. And it got blocked. I disputed it and nothing happened, so that it's still not viewable online. And I figured to myself, I should probably try something different. And I've been umming and ahhing about it for a while. And I thought this might be a good idea. It might be a good chance to get my voice out there and be able to talk about stuff. But at the same time, I'm still producing somewhat regular content on this channel. It's not going to be all the time, but it's going to be just fine, at least for now. So, welcome to, I don't know what we're calling this podcast. Welcome to episode 0 of the Shin Anime podcast. Shin Anime podcast, in brackets, placeholder. I'll think of a name later. Just like Girls Band Cry, which I'm watching, by the way. I finally started watching it. Now that it's on Crunchyroll, hooray. And it turns out, yes, it's the greatest thing that's ever happened to anime this year. Actually, no, it's the second greatest thing. No, scratch that. It's the third greatest thing to have happened to anime this year. And I mean, no disrespect to Girls Band Cry, but I feel like there are two things that might be slightly better. And I will talk about them soon. I'll talk about them in a moment. But I did want to talk about Girls Band Cry first. I will actually, because I did say this was episode 0, so I will actually explain why it's episode 0, because this isn't the official start of this podcast. I will get to that will come soon. I don't even know how many, like, if I'm going to do this weekly or if I'm going to do it, like, monthly. We'll figure that out as well. But that's why this is episode 0. We're not starting officially just yet. I'll figure out all the kinks later. But for now, I just wanted to talk. Talk about anime, talk about me. In fact, I should probably start with that, because a lot of you probably don't know who I am. There's a lot of you watching the channel for the first time, which is a pretty common occurrence for me, but that's fine. That means that's a whole opportunity to get to know a bunch of new people. Some of you will be watching me for a repeat, like some of you are repeat viewers, in which case I thank you for sticking around through all of the bad times, through all of the low times, and all the creamy middles. I appreciate that. And some of you, by name, I could mention, but you know who you are. Anyway, for those of you who don't know who I am, while my internet name is DYNE, as you could probably tell, I like to use it as a sort of like placeholder name, because it's cool. Okay? It's cool. I just come up with it. Well, I didn't come up with it. I got it from obvious other places, but I just thought, yep, this is going to be my thing now. So my name is DYNE. Welcome to my channel, where this is meant to be about anime stuff. Now, I will go into a little bit of a background about who I am. I am, as you can tell by the accent, I'm an Australian man. I was born and bred in Melbourne. I'm still here. I'm 32. So, you might think I'm a bit late to the game, but some of you might say I'm in my prime. I don't know about that. I really, honestly do not know. I feel like I've wasted a lot of my life, but that's perfectly fine. That's not on anyone else. Or it's probably named, but I'm not going to get into that either. What else could I say? I should probably mention this off the bat, and it should come as no surprise to anyone who's watched my videos and just noticed my cadence in speaking and how I do things. But I am an autistic man. I was diagnosed with Asperger's when I was 4. I've probably had it my whole life. My mum reckons she's had it as well, which is why I have it. It's got nothing to do with vaccines. Okay, I did not get autism from vaccines. I had vaccines when I was a kid. I got whooping cough. That was the first vaccine I had, and I got a bunch of other vaccines when I was young. That's not how my autism was caused. So for any of you out there who believe in that sort of thing, you could shut up. Vaccines do not cause autism. And that's as political as I'll probably get on this show. Anyway, I am an autistic gentleman, and like I said, that does kind of affect my way of thinking. It does affect how I speak. A lot of my mannerisms come from this sort of alternative brainwave that I have. There's going to be a lot of pauses. There's going to be a lot of umming and ahhing, but that's just me as a person who can't really understand nor possess the confidence to speak in a public forum such as this, especially on my own. If I was talking with somebody, hell yeah, this would probably go a lot better. I could probably, if there's anyone out there who's fantastic, but I actually don't jump on that. I don't have the technology to do that. If you happen to be somewhere else on this planet, anyway, that's me. There's also been many years where I've had depression and anxiety of different varieties. That can also affect how YouTube has gone for me, because I feel very nervous. I feel very nervous about, will they like this content? Will this content actually get somewhere? Do I feel confident putting this out? Am I putting out the best of me? That happens a lot, and that often becomes a hindrance. But this time I'm stepping into it. This podcast will not be very long, by the way. I'm not going to talk here. By the way, I'm not going to talk here for 3 hours. I'm just going to probably keep it a lot shorter than that, which is perfectly fine because I'm talking by myself. I'm putting myself a lot out there. So I need to, I need to keep it short and sweet so I can actually get my point across. Anyway, that's me as a general outline of who I am. My hobbies include being a weeb, and a massive one, both literally and figuratively. I am a big man. I am a kind of sick man, but I'm a man who's pushing on. Anyway, should I talk about how I actually got back into it? Because I've been watching anime since I was a kid. The standard issue anime for kids. I actually started with Sailor Moon. Sailor Moon was the first kid. The standard issue anime for kids. I actually started with Sailor Moon. Sailor Moon was the first, anime that I watched when I was about 6 years old. It was on a television program called Agro's Cartoon Connection, which is, if there's any 90s kids in Australia who know this show, it's a show hosted by, there was various women, various young women that were hosting, and they would host alongside a small, angry puppet man called Agro. And he was just a small man with big, angry eyebrows, and he was just your good old-fashioned Aussie larrigan, making jokes and being a little bit sexist. And that he was very sexist. The 90s were a different time. but he was just different time. But he was your hero. He was the Aussie hero, and he would host a show and they'd play a bunch of cartoons on it. And one of the cartoons they played was Sailor Moon, and I loved Sailor Moon. And it was the old dubbed version of Sailor Moon, so it wasn't even Usagi. Her name was Serena. But I love her. I didn't realize it at the time, but I was like, ooh, she's really cute and pretty. I don't consider her my first like waifu though. That came later. But then after that, all the standard shonen stuff, Pokemon, Digimon, Yu-Gi-Oh, Dragon Ball, a couple of other things. Crush Gear Turbo. Does anyone remember Crush Gear Turbo? It's probably the one anime where I'm like, nobody knows what this anime is. But because after Agro's Cartoon Connection, there was another show that a lot of these anime were on and popularized in Australia. I'm talking about Cheese TV, which was on every day, every morning before school. And they'd play Pokemon. That's probably where the Pokemon was probably like their biggest draw, because that was a lot of the show was revolved around Pokemon in some way. Pokemon was just this big phenomenon in Australia, and Cheese TV basically made it part of their identity. But they'd play other anime as well, and one of the anime they played was Crush Gear Turbo. So you remember Beyblade, right? Think Beyblade, but they're little tiny cars. They've got a bunch of like little spikes and weapons on them, and they do battle. It didn't last very long. It only lasted for about 50 odd episodes, but it was cool. And I really enjoyed it. And I actually had a Crush Gear when I was a kid. I had the Crush Gear of the protagonist, the Garuda Eagle, it was called. It was the protagonist's Crush Gear, and I had one. It hurt. It was actually really pointy and legit. So if it ran into your hand, you would probably bleed to death. It was legitimately like painful, but it was cool. And you basically just like sort of pull it along and boom, there it goes. And you're supposed to like battle with other Crush Gears, but no one I know had a Crush Gear. I'm pretty sure when I got it, it was like a Japanese. It might not have been a legitimate one. It might have just been a knockoff. I don't know. Actually, I don't think so. I don't think it was a knockoff. I think it might have been an actual Japanese issue, or they might have imported it. It might have been an actual Japanese issue, or they might have imported it. A limited run of toys from Japan, but I did have one, and it is popular. And outside of Japan, I don't even know if it's popular in Japan. I just know it had a cult following in Australia because of Cheese TV. One, because of Cheese TV, and two, because it ended. The final arc was like a world championship, like a world championship tournament that took place in Australia. So in canon, Australia was like the sort of end point for the series, and that's another reason why it's got a cult following. But I just loved Crush Gear. I really need to sit down and just watch it, because it was awesome, and I just want to watch it again as an adult and appreciate it again. So Crush Gear Turbo. If you haven't heard of it, find it. I might do an actual retrospective on Crush Gear Turbo if I manage to find the series and watch it again. That would be fun. So there's your standard fare, and also I watched Cardcaptor Sakura. That's what I was leading up to. Cardcaptor Sakura. She was my first waifu. Okay, I was 10 years old. It wasn't even called Cardcaptor Sakura. It was just Cardcaptors. It wasn't the Funimation dub. It was an old dub done by Nelvana. Whoever remembers that company that dubbed cartoons and stuff. They did a dub, and everything about the show was changed. So it's not the shoujo sort of girly show that you know now. It was very heavily marketed towards young boys. Their episodes were heavily edited. They were chopped. The broadcast episodes were heavily edited. They were chopped. The broadcast order, everything about the broadcast order was changed, like a lot. And I believe there was a bunch of episodes that were also cut out. So it was a very different version of the show, and that's the version I watched. And it's actually quite fascinating when I talk to people. I ask them, what version of Cardcaptor Sakura did you watch? Did you watch the Nelvana dub? And I'm quite fascinated to see how many of you actually did and remember it. Because it was... See, I didn't know what it was at the time. I just thought, oh, this is a show. I didn't realize, oh, they've completely butchered this. That's just how I knew the show. But again, it's one of those shows that I'm going to watch as an adult. Because I have actually gone back to watch Cardcaptor Sakura in any capacity. I just know that Sakura is the cutest patootie who's ever lived. And, well, anime was for nerds and perverts. Although I did watch... Actually, I did watch some stuff. I watched Akira. I watched a little bit of Bubblegum Crisis, if everyone remembers that. Samurai Champloo. That was the one. Samurai Champloo was the one show that I actually watched when it was on. Like, for real. Like, when I was about 12, 13 years old. It was sick. I thought, this is really cool. Because I didn't think anime could be like this. I just thought anime was like for kids. Fun fact. Before I get back to that. Fun fact. I used to think... Now, this is really, really dumb. I thought anime and manga were just two different styles of animation. Like, oh, anime is this, but manga is a different kind of cartoon that's animated like this. Like, case in point, like Astro Boy. I thought Astro Boy, the manga was like a different style of cartoon. I thought Astro Boy, the manga was like a different style of cartoon. I thought anime and manga were two different styles of animation. I didn't think, oh, anime is just animation in Japan and manga is like a comic book. Because I was stupid. I didn't know what manga was. And now I do, and I really enjoy it. Anyway, so that's a fun fact about me being really stupid. Like using a Master Ball and a Magikarp kind of stupid, which I also did do, but that's beside the point. Anyway, Samurai Champloo was really fun. It's one of my favorite anime of all time because it's, well, you've seen it, haven't you? You know exactly why it's the best one. I'll go into my favorites shortly because I do want to sort of talk about my favorite anime of all time, and I'll probably dedicate an episode to that. But I'll leave it for now. I think because I'll just go off on a tangent before I actually start a proper podcast series. So, like I said, I didn't watch anime for a long time because I thought anime was for nerds and perverts, and I was trying to be cool. I wasn't cool at all. I was a complete loser. But we used to laugh at the anime club in high school. We thought, you're just watching hentai. Fun fact, we actually walked in. Oh, we didn't walk in. We were outside a classroom where the anime club was going on. I can't remember. I had no idea what they were watching. I think it was some ecchi show because there was some panty shots and everything. It was by a pool. That's all I remember. And I thought, these nerds are watching hentai. Lol, because I didn't know what ecchi was because I'm an idiot. And that was that for a long time. That was literally it. I didn't even watch Pokemon for a long time. I didn't get back to Pokemon. That was literally it. I didn't even watch Pokemon for a long time. I didn't get back to Pokemon properly till X and Y. I just stuck around playing the old Game Boy games on an emulator, and that was it. And then I decided to watch actually, I am getting into that because that is part of the next part of my anime journey. So, late 2015 was when my grandfather passed away. And him and I were like very close. Very, very close. Like best of friends kind of close. And I was clearly in a lot of pain emotionally. So I thought, what am I going to do with my life? So I thought to myself, oh, Pokemon. And I got back into Pokemon. I started watching XY. And this is when I got back into it. I started watching XY. I thought it was brilliant. And I thought, I'm going to get a 3DS. And I thought, I'm going to get a 3DS. And I'm going to go buy Pokemon X and Y. And it turns out it was also great. I do not listen to all of the people that think that X and Y were bad. And that Sun and Moon were bad. Basically all the 3DS games were bad. Because they're idiots and they don't know what they're talking about. This was the best Pokemon has been for a long, long time. And then when X and Y ended, this was 2016, I thought, oh, okay, maybe I should watch some other anime. And then I realized, oh, I've got Netflix. I should see if there's any anime on Netflix. And lo and behold, there was. And I stumbled upon this little series called Toradora. And granted, this was in 2008, so I still have a lot of catching up to do. All the titles on there, there's about nearly 900 plus titles. I'm like, okay, I'm literally going to list everything in history that I missed. Here it all is. And boom. And I haven't, and it's 2024, and I still haven't watched anything because my attention span is terrible, but you guys already knew that. I thought, okay, I'll watch Toradora. I didn't know what it was. I thought, this is kind of quirky. What is it? It's this romance about this guy who's pretty nice guy, all things considered, but he looks like a ruffian because his deadbeat dad was in the Yakuza and his mum's a pseudo-prostitute at a host club. So he looks kind of weird and no one wants to talk to him because he looks kind of weird. And there's also this girl, this tiny girl who punches people and is a mean prostitute at a host club. So he looks kind of weird and no one wants to talk to him because he looks kind of weird. And there's also this girl, this tiny girl who punches people and is a meanie. And they slowly fall in love. And it was the best thing. I thought Toradora was super great. That's another show I need to watch again. Because I haven't watched it since then. Because I thought to myself, I've watched this. Should I watch it? I don't think I should watch this again. I don't think I can watch this again. It was one of those. So I thought, okay, Toradora was pretty great. What else is on? And then I discovered the internet. And there's this thing on the internet called a pirate website. There's these things called seasonal anime where they're direct from Japan and you can watch them with shitty subtitles on ad-infested pirates. I thought, okay, let's do that. I wasn't part of the YouTube era where there were 8-minute rips of anime episodes in 1p. I wasn't part of the AMV era. I wasn't part of the early fan subs era. I joined back in 2016 because I was going through a lot and anime seemed to be the only fix at the time. And that was a big mistake because since then, for the last 8 years, I have been just this man. So that's when I got back into seasonal anime, and really it's just been going from there. And we'll talk about, I think when I talk about my favorite anime, I can't really talk about what happened because it involves something that happened in 2016. Talk about it without going into the story. So again, I think I'm going to save that for another time. So for the last 8 years, this has been my life. I've just been this fat anime loser who loves anime and is trying desperately to start talking about it with other people. But the problem is, when you have friends that in real life that don't watch anime at all, that have no interest in anime, what do? You turn to the people on the internet. The people on the internet that you don't know, that you're trying to speak to, but you're too nervous to speak to, and you don't know if they're going to speak back to you. But lo and behold, here we are. I hope this goes somewhere. So, that's me. Let's talk about some stuff, huh? Man, Isn't Dandadan the best fucking anime that's ever been made? I do want to talk about this because I think this might, and granted there's still a lot of 2024 anime that I have to get through, but I think this might be it. I think this might be anime of the year, and I'll explain why. So for those of you who live under a rock, you have no idea what Dandadan is. First of all, what the hell are you doing? Secondly, it's this huge Shonen Jump mega hit manga. And I'm talking huge. Every year there's at least one or two of these huge, super duper, mega popular new manga series in Shonen Jump magazine that premiere. They get anime adaptations every year. Mashal was one of them, and I thought Mashal was really good. This year, it's Shonen Jump, and it's, not Dandadan. For those of you who don't know what Dandadan is, it is just this awesome thing. Really, really awesome thing. There's a boy who's a nerd and a loser who loves aliens because he wants aliens to be his friend because he thinks aliens will understand. Humans don't understand me. Aliens might understand me. They won't realize that I'm a huge nerd and a horrible loser. They'll be friends with me. And there's also a girl, a gyaru, if you will, which I should probably point out right now that gyaru is another one of my anime fetishes. I'm just pointing that out there right now, just so you know, because we're going to be talking about a lot of them throughout this journey. Anyway, there's a girl who's kind of a gyaru. Who believes in ghosts, and it's probably because her grandmother, who's super hot, but is also 80 years old, even though she looks 30, because what the fuck? Who cares? She's super hot. Is a psychic. She didn't think she was a real psychic. She was like, oh, fuck you, grandma, because of you. But turns out she's a real psychic. And she's a spirit slayer of some kind. Anyway, they eventually run into each other at school, and they're like, I'll prove to you the aliens are real, and I'll prove to you the ghosts are real. Alright, let's go on a test of courage. You have to go investigate this cave where there's a weird spirit. And you have to investigate this cave where there's a weird spirit. And you have to find aliens. Anyway, first episode, the old ghost lady wants to bite boy's penis off, and girl runs into these weird, rapey robots with giant, metallic, pointy penises. It's really weird. First episode is really weird, and I bet there was a lot of people that got turned off by that. But don't though, because despite how weird that is, the anime just goes from there. They basically fight. The whole premise is that they fight. They team up to fight spirits. Blah blah blah. Oh, he also gets cursed with the weird grandma spirit, who's called Turbo Granny, by the way. He gets cursed with her power, and he also gets his penis stolen, and then he also gets his balls stolen at a point. He's really cool, but he's also super depressed in that form. It's funny. It's fun. The juxtaposition of his two personas is really, really funny. Anyway, this show is really good. It's really, really good. It's the best thing that's happened to anime this year, I am assuming. It's animated by Science Saru, who animated Scott Pilgrim Takes Off from last year, which I will say right now was probably my anime of 2023, even though my anime list doesn't consider it an anime. They put Castlevania on there. They put fucking Pingu on there, the Japanese Pingu show from a few years ago. That's considered an anime, but Scott Pilgrim isn't. Fix your shit, my anime list. Anyway, they also animated a show that from last year called Yurei Deco, which if you don't know what that is, I would suggest you seek it out because it's weird. It's unusual. I have a sort of love-hate relationship with that show. I will say that it starts off fantastically, but I would also suggest you see, maybe you'll get more out of it than I ended up getting out of it, but it starts off really well. And Science Saru did animate it, and it's great. Well, it starts off great anyway. I won't spoil anything. I'll just say, see if you can formulate your own ideas from it. It's one of those shows that's definitely worth at least some of your time. But they've kicked it up a notch with DYNE, like a ton of notches. What could I get into? There's so much between Okarun or Ken. We're not allowed to use his real name because Momo, who's the girl, hates it because she's attracted to Ken Takakura, who's a famous actor, and that's his also name by coincidence. And she doesn't want to admit that she likes him, so she forbids him from saying his name. So she calls him Okarun. Anyway, the central chemistry and the sort of budding friendship / romance with them two is really awesome because they're just. It's also kind of real as well because they just act like dorks. It's just a budding, developing romance where they just act like kids, like act like young adults who are just dorky and awkward, and that's real kids, like act like young adults who are just dorky and awkward, and that's really funny, and that's also really wholesome and real, and I enjoy it, and I'm hoping it continues to blossom. That romance continues to blossom. I probably should read the manga. I'm going to read the manga as well. I'm going to seek it out and read it because, yeah, I feel like it's going to definitely be worth my time. What else is there? There's 2 episodes I want to talk about in particular. Episode 4 is the first one. Now, I know you probably realize what the other one is because by the time this podcast comes out, it will have aired and everyone is talking about it. You probably know what the other one is, but I want to talk about episode 4 first. Especially like the sort of climax sequence. The giant enemy crab. They're fighting the giant enemy crab and they're just whizzing around fighting all these spirits and an angry mob of spirits. It's like the climax against Turbo Granny. And it's all done to the William Tell Overture. Oh my god, it's so... And I thought to myself, wow, this is awesome. The animation is just on point. I love this. That was the point where I was like, okay, this is a fun show. I'm enjoying it so far. But that was like, yes, everything, all of it in my face now. And from there, it just got better and better. And it airs on Friday mornings on Crunchyroll. And that's... So Friday morning when I wake up, that's the thing. It's like, yay, Dun Day. Awesome. I love it. And I'm a 32-year-old and I'm still jazzed about an anime, waking up in the morning to watch anime. Do it as part of some TV show. I don't have to go to school. I have to go to work later on, but that's later on. Whatever. I dictate what's going on here. So I can watch anime whenever I want. And I can get excited about it. So, what was the other? The other one we're going to talk about is obviously episode 7. Oh my goodness. This was the moment where, yep, this is anime of the year for me. If you haven't seen it yet, I'm not going to say anything. I probably shouldn't spend my time like talking about anime episodes because I could potentially be spoiling something for someone. I don't want to do that. I want to be as impartial as possible and say, yes, I enjoyed this. I thought this was really good. In my opinion, this is why this is great. But I'm not going to go into finer detail. I want to be as impartial as possible and say, yes, I enjoyed this. I thought this was really good. In my opinion, this is why this is great. But I'm not going to go into finer details about the actual details of the show, because that wouldn't be fair to anyone watching who just hasn't watched it yet, who hasn't had the time. And for a lot of people, yeah, you don't have the time to watch anime on your own terms. You can't watch it when you want. You only have to dedicate yourself, you have to dedicate yourself to work, and you can't, there's not a lot of hours in the day where you can just sit down and watch anime. You have a very limited window for that. So you watch anime slowly. I understand that. So that's why I don't want to talk about it. All I'll say is this. I loved it. I thought, yep. I think I gave it I didn't, because everyone's talking about it on social media, where it's I think I'm going to cry. That episode. I didn't, because I was just in awe. I was just in awe by it. DYNE isn't one of those shows I will cry at, because it's just too, for me, it's too action-packed. It's too, clench your butt, edge of your seat, funny, action, cool. You know, I don't think I'm going to cry at a show like that. But that's just me. And it is definitely tear-inducing. It's really sad. It's heartfelt. But at the same time, I was thinking, wow. And I gave it a standing ovation when the credits started rolling, because I was like, yep. I think this is the moment where DYNE might actually end up being Anime of the Year. Just because everything about it is just so great. And it encapsulates everything that I love about a show and why I rate shows certain. A 10 is not necessarily, for me anyway, it's not a perfect show. Everything about this is perfect. For me, it is, well, in some cases it is actually, now that I think about it. It is perfect to me and me alone, because it encapsulates everything that I love about a show. And for certain shows, it has to have certain elements that are expected of that genre of show. And they have to exemplify and be exemplars of all of those factors. And for DYNE, it's got action, it's got animation on full display, it's got great chemistry between characters, it's got comedy, it's got all of those things. And it has to be really, really good at showcasing all of those without each of them getting in the way. Without it getting in the way of the narrative, without clashing. And DYNE does that, at least so far, have done that to a T. They have everything that I just said. Great action, animation, sublime, chemistry between characters, awesome, wholesome, romantic, funny. There's a lot of funny moments. It's everything about it is, and then you get the emotional stuff. You get the emotional stuff that really puts everything into perspective. That sort of makes you take a step back and think, okay, there's a certain realness to this. There's a certain emotional resonance to this that I connect with, where it puts everything in perspective and you kind of understand why they do the things they do. And that only comes through emotional resonance, because you can only then can you truly understand a character. And if it does all of these things, and it does them really well, really, really well, then you're a 10. It doesn't have to be action. It doesn't have to be animation in every show. It doesn't have to be all these things I listed for DYNE. It just has to, what it's trying to be. What it's trying to get out of you. What its strengths are. And it does them well. And that's DYNE for me. Dan is that show. And also, I've looked at manga. I've looked at shots from the manga. It's adapting them perfectly. Adapting them perfectly as well. It's sticking everything that the manga readers loved about it. It's being adapted to a T. And that's why I feel it's going to be the best. It's going to be a 10. We're only 7 episodes in though. Like, I'm not trying to jinx it here, knock on wood. I definitely don't want this to happen. It could happen. It happened with Eurodeka. A show that started off really great that ended up, But I did say I wasn't going to spoil Eurodeka, but whatever. But you know what I mean. Like, it starts off great. It starts off fantastic. You think, wow, everything about this is awesome. And then it falls off a cliff. I'm not expecting that to happen, nor do I seriously hope it doesn't. I seriously hope it doesn't. But there is, even if there's a 0.0001% chance that it could happen, it's still a chance, isn't it? Not that I'm trying to jinx Dan. I sincerely do not believe that it's going to get bad at some point. It's just because manga readers will probably let me know that it's only going to get better. And it probably does. And I'm going to read the manga for myself and see. But yeah, we're only 7 episodes in. I feel like it's only going to get better. Anime of the year already, I think. I will do a top 10 of some kind early next year. Because like I said, there's plenty to get through. There's plenty of shows that I have to get through, and I might have missed something that turns out to be really done. Fucking perfect. Let's talk about Girls Band Cry, shall we? Girls Band Cry is a show that's finally come to Netflix after being stuck in non-streaming jail for a long time. And I don't know why, because people said it was one of the best shows of the year, and I also do think that. I am 7 episodes in now. I've watched it slowly, but I actually really love it. I think it's really great. And it also exemplifies what its strengths are. I thought to myself, is the 3D anime... This is the thing. I think 3D animation can be good if it's done really well. And this is the best I've seen. Because... And I said this on Blue Sky. Oh, I have a Blue Sky, by the way. But I will get into that. I'll get into that soon. I said on Blue Sky that I don't think of this as a 3D animation. I think of this as 2.75D. And that's something I came up with where the character models are all in 3D. The sort of aesthetics are all in 3D. But it has just the fluidity, the smoothness, and the precision of a really well-crafted traditional 2D anime. And that's why I think it's 2.75D, because it's just one of those. I love the characters. I think the characters are all a bunch of girl failures who are complicated and just messy and great because they're 100% real. Starting a band is probably not all peaches and cream like all the idol shows. It's probably not all peaches and cream like all the idol shows. It's hard. It's probably really, really hard. I don't know. I've never started a band. I wish I could, but I've never started one. But it's probably really hard, and everyone has different motivations, and everyone has different emotions, and everyone's just a completely different beast, and you have to deal with that. And those all have to, all of that has to clash, and you somehow have to gel together. We haven't gotten there yet. The band is still a bit of a mess. But I love them. I love them all regardless. Nina is just a little girl failure crybaby, absolute mess of anxiety and complicated feelings, and I just want to give her cuddles. I think she is just a sweet, complicated, sometimes angry, sometimes depressed. Subaru is also cute. She's like just your typical, like, she's kind of like she's probably the closest to being an idol character in a show like this, but she's also a bit of a shithead. She's also a bit of a little angry weirdo, but I love it. Momoko, I'd probably say Momoko is my favorite character of the show because, well, she's hot, first of all, but she's also a drunken failure, just like me, for real. Who's, again, a lot of complicated emotions that aren't really shown or haven't really been explained by her yet, because she's also really freaking stubborn. But I think she is probably my favorite. I've only just been introduced to the other two characters. I don't even know. I can't remember their names. What the frick were their names? I don't even know. I can't remember their names. What the frick were their names? They work at Yoshinora Beef Bowl. My girlfriend works at Yoshinora Beef Bowl. I don't have a girlfriend. That's just a great SNL reference for anyone who knows that. I'm going to look up Girls Band Cry really quick. But they've only just gotten introduced in like the last couple... I mean, they've been around because they work at Yoshinora Beef Bowl, but they're only just been properly introduced as of like a couple of episodes ago. I'm looking for the Wikipedia article. I don't actually remember their names off by heart. Rupa is... She's gorgeous as well, but she's also like really silly. She's also a bit of a... She's less of a girl failure than Momoko is, but she's also like a silly drunk. She's not like a messy drunk like Momoko is. Tomo's the other one. The little keyboard girl who's angry all the time and has a pet lizard and a snake and a frog. I can't remember what she has. But yeah, that's... and they've only just named themselves, by the way. I've only just gotten to the episode where Nina names the band Toganashi Togiari, which is Japanese for thornless thorn. I guess that makes sense. Like, they're a little cute little girl band, but at the same time, like, Nina has just this dark blood aura just stemming from her whenever she gets angry, or whenever she gets super depressed, or whenever she remembers her past, or whenever she sings on stage. There's just has just this dark blood aura just stemming from her whenever she gets angry, or whenever she gets super depressed, or whenever she remembers her past, or whenever she sings on stage. There's just these red lines of just brooding blood aura that come out from her, and yeah, that makes a lot of sense. She'd belong in metal. She belongs in metal. If only she had a more like durable voice for it. I reckon she'd do really well in metal, because she just needs to scream out all of her... She's like a Gretzko. She just needs to scream out all of her insecurities and all of her fears and everything. And everything that has been afflicted on her. Just scream it out, girl. You deserve it. And you also deserve hugs. So, Girls Band Cry is really, really good. I really enjoy the show so far, and it's also really cute. And also really emotional. And also, it's great. So, it's doing all of its things really, really well. All of its strengths, all it wants to do, and it's doing them well. So that's Girls Band Cry. I'm still making my way through Delicious in Dungeon, or Dungeon Meshi, which is on Netflix. Great show already. I'm in the Red Dragon arc, so still got pretty much half the series left to go, but it's great. I was watching it at the start of the year, like weekly, and one of the great things I loved about Dungeon Meshi, and I still do, is its world building. It has gone... It really... It tried to build this really sustainable ecosystem. Like everything in this dungeon and all the environments and all the different creatures, the ecosystem has been designed so well, and it just added this huge, like, this really great world building to the whole thing that I really loved. I just love anything where it's like, hey, we have to cook things. Here's things about food. And here's how you make the food. And doesn't the food look beautiful? I love anime like that. I love food anime. I'm watching in the background I've got an infomercial about an air fryer. And this guy's just made pulled pork. Like, he's just gotten this huge pork out of the giant air fryer thing, and it's just fallen apart. And he's making little sliders. See, I can only watch. I have to watch food anime when I'm eating. Oh, and he's also made potato gems. Great. Or tater tots for you Americans. I call them potato gems because that's what they're called here. But those are also really great. Anyway, I should probably turn that off because it's distracting me. I can only watch food anime if I'm eating. Because I'm like, oh, I'm so hungry. This is going to make me really hungry. I should probably, eat something. And then I can enjoy it. It's the same with cooking shows. Dude, you take one look at me, you realize, yeah, he probably likes food anime. And I do. And Delicious in Dungeon is a really good one. Because it goes into great detail with its world building. And the characters are also fun. Marcel is... I love her. I think she's fantastic in a lot of ways. She's the audience insert character. Good. And when I finish it, I'm going to talk about it in more detail. What else am I watching right now? There's a lot of anime that I've got on my list from this season that I just haven't started, that I'm actively watching and really enjoying. And another is Negative Positive Angler. And for those of you who don't know what that is, it starts with the protagonist trying to unalive themselves because they're super depressed and they're in huge debt. And then that fails. And then he finds out he's got cancer or something. I think it's cancer. He's only got like 2 years left to live. And then he tries to jump off a bridge. And then he's saved by this group of fishing people who are all characters who all look like they belong in different anime. It's just a wild assortment of character designs and art, and it's the juxtaposition of it all is... It doesn't bother me that much. I thought it was going to bother me, but it actually doesn't because the characters are actually really good. But it's just like... And then he starts getting into fishing. And it's like, fishing can be good. And I do like fishing anime. There was one from a couple of years ago called Slow Loop, which was basically cute girls doing fishing. And I thought it was really good. I really enjoyed it a lot. I want more anime like that, please. Emotional growth and just warm and cuddly vibes through fishing. Because fishing is great. And I probably should do more of that as well. I need to buy a boat. I just want to buy a boat so I can fish. So I can be a fisherman in Japan. Just hanging out on the docks, just fishing. As an old Japanese man. That's what I'm doing. That's how I'm retiring. I'm retiring to be an old Japanese fisherman. That's how I promise I'm going to live. I'm going to die out. So that's another really... I'm watching... There's a couple of others that I'm watching as well, but... Dun. Negative Positive Angler. I'm still watching Mushroom Pup, by the way. Mushroom Pup is still really wholesome and cute. I don't think I don't think it's as great as the other two, but it's still pretty fun. It's still nice. There's a couple of others as well that I'm watching from previous at the moment, but done negative positive that are pretty heavily in my rotation at the moment, and they're all great. So we're coming up on an hour now. I think that's actually a good time to finish. There's plenty of other things I want to talk about before I leave, though. I did mention I have a Blue Sky now. I joined Blue Sky. I thought to myself, okay, the last couple of weeks have been a bit of a doozy, huh? Just in general, throughout the world, throughout life. It's not great. But Blue Sky is actually kind of fun. Blue Sky is... I realize this is one of those things where it's like, oh, wow, this is what Twitter used to be. This is what we wanted all along. We just wanted to build a community, just wanted to talk to folks about things, about positive things. Just share our thoughts and just not be surrounded by hate about right-wing rhetoric or anything crazy, and especially not surrounded by ads or misinformation. And I think that's really good. Do I think Blue Sky is going to be that forever? Who knows? Again, knock on wood. But for now, Blue Sky is actually a really good place to be. And that's probably where I'm going to be doing most of my social interaction from now on. So if you want to find me on Blue Sky, you can. Very easy to find. I'm actually loading it up right now. You can find me at DYNE at bluesky.social. Like the normal one. The normal sort of username kind of thing. Find me, follow me. I'm going to be talking a lot about this podcast, whatever it is, over there. I'm going to be over there a lot. So the link, I'm probably going to leave it in the description. I'm sure there's like web links I can use, but I can also just use like, oh, here's my thing. You can find me that way. But yeah, look for me on Blue Sky if you're on Blue Sky. I talk about anime, but I also talk about random things. So yeah, do that. We'll talk and I'll share. It will basically become like a second sort of community tab for me. I'll probably end up using that more than the community tab, because the community tab I feel like can be like no one really pays attention, I don't think. So there'll be plenty of updates on what's going on. There'll be plenty of like just me rambling about positive things. So go find me on there. I'm still on Twitter because there's actually a couple. I'm just on Twitter for the anime nudes. Hashtag shout out to Setsu. You're the only reason I'm staying on Twitter. Otherwise, I would just delete my account. And all the tweets throughout 13 or 14 years of Twitter that I've been on. You're the only reason I'm staying on there. I don't even know if you're a he or a she or a they. I don't even know I don't even know who you are, but you post really good anime nudes. That's a great way to end a podcaster. That's a great way to end a podcaster. Yeah, so I am still on Twitter, but I don't use it very often anymore. Follow me on Blue Sky. I don't even use Instagram that much anymore. I don't post anything on there anyway. Just follow me on Blue Sky. And follow me on YouTube as well. At youtube.com/DyneSummer and youtube.com/DyneAdvance, where I will be posting other non-anime related things at some point in my life. They'll just be maybe just games and other things in general. Still haven't quite figured out what it's going to be, but I'm working out the kinks. But yeah, this was my attempt at a podcast. Let's see how this goes, huh? What do they call it? Shin Anime Podcast in brackets placeholder. I'll work out the kinks, and I'll figure out a proper name and purpose for it later. That's just how I operate. I operate like that. Oh, don't worry, I'll figure out another way. I'll figure out another way to do this later. I'll figure it all out. That's what happens when you're in your 30s and you're autistic and you also have depression and anxiety and you're just an absolute mess of a person. I am the ultimate otaku boy failure. I'll figure it out later. It's fine. Don't worry about it. I'm going to go have a drink and